In these uncertain economic times, it's easy to be worried about protecting your wealth, your hard-earned savings, and your family's financial future. Plunging interest rates, the devaluating dollar, and political unrest constantly threaten what you have worked hard to earn and all that you own. That's why now it's more important than ever to protect your assets and have the money you need to make your dreams come true. Welcome to the Global Wealth Fortress Report with successful global entrepreneur and wealth preservation expert Joel Nagel. Joel's helped thousands of people just like you protect what you have so that you can make even more and make your every dream come true. So, sit back and enjoy Joel Nagel's offshore expert advice on how you can live the good life at a great price, where the sun never sets on your financial fortress.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Carib Carter, and grab your coffee and welcome to Joel Nagel's Global Wealth Fortress Report. Today, we're going to ask America's #1 asset protection attorney a question that's a little unusual, but I think you're going to see how it applies to you because he's the guy who does all the groundwork, legal investigation when he and his partner, Mike Cobb, and you all know Mike from his show on Fridays, buy all these wonderful properties for residential resort communities across now worldwide. We're going to talk to him specifically about one in the Azores, Portugal, and take a look at the background because you're going to feel very protected because you are with Joel. Joel, welcome.
Thanks, Carter. Good to be with you.
We talked to Mike, and he's going to do a show tomorrow about what you're doing in the Azores, building a gorgeous, gorgeous community there, just like you always do. And of course, as you know, Offshore Club members know, you already have residential resort communities throughout the Caribbean. I think there's 6 of them, and you're continuing to build. It's hard to keep a tally, but you're the guy who goes in and looks at these properties, big, sometimes gigantic. I think the one in the Azores is like 3 acres. Is that right?
Yeah, the land mass in the Azore one isn't that large, but we're building it around a villa that was, historically significant. It was built in 1697, so it's older than the U.S. And it belonged to a very wealthy shipping magnate who was, responsible for transshipping things back and forth and around Europe and Africa and North America. And it's really a fantastic building. We really loved it.
It's fantastic.
It'll be sort of the great. It'll be sort of the great house, great room, restaurants, meeting rooms. And then we're building very modern townhouse, condo type properties around it that will qualify for the golden visa. That's really what everybody's interested in, getting the residents in Portugal, and the Azores have a sort of preferred legal status where the investment's lower and it's actually easier to participate in that than if you were trying to, for example, buy in Lisbon or the Algarve or someplace like that.
Exactly. And let me show people, here's where we're talking about, folks. See that little red dot? It's 930 miles west, I think, of Portugal. It's owned by Portugal, 2,100 miles east of the U.S. And one of the worst to me, okay, as somebody who has bought properties in residential resort communities in Central America, one of the worst fears is it's a horrible thought that the people who bought the original big piece of property and started building the homes that folks like most of us go in and buy then may have not covered all the bases. And one day we wake up in trouble. Well, you're the one that goes in and make sure all the bases are covered. What do you do? I mean, let's take the Azores. I think you discovered this property, right?
Yeah, I did. I mean, but just taking a step back because, we've purchased property in Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Belize, Panama. We were working on a very interesting project in Ecuador, and it fell apart for the exact reason that we're talking about. And that is, we really make sure that we can get clean title, that we can trace the title back. Sometimes even when we've purchased property, we've had issues after the fact. Our property in Nicaragua, we purchased 3.5 miles of ocean frontage, and one of our neighbors came and said, hey, the way the line goes, you don't have it correct. It goes like this. And it was creating a huge, piece of pie shape that just happened to, the big end of the pie just happened to be the ocean. And
right.
We spent, a couple years fighting in court, but we had traced and we won, by the way, but when we bought that property, we had the title. We went all the way back to 1902, which was like when the property was originally sort of turned into the modern property, scenario. And that's what we really do. We try to go all the way back. We work with insurance companies where it's possible to get title insurance. We want to make sure that we are 100% protected, because I can't then turn around and sell you a piece of property on our property if we have a problem with our underlying property. And that's really the name of the game, doing the due diligence. It's a little bit different in every country. You have civil law countries, you have common law countries. You have to at least know a little bit about the way their title system works. We always work also with a local attorney. We wouldn't, I've been an attorney in this space for 33 years, but I would never, ever acquire a property and not involve a local attorney, just to, make sure that we're not missing something. Even if we say, hey, we've done it a dozen times before, it doesn't matter. Every project is different. But and honestly, if somebody who was even buying one of our properties said, do I need a lawyer? I would probably say yes. I mean, I think everybody should do that. In the greater scheme of things, if you're going to be buying a property of several hundred thousand or millions of dollars, to spend a couple $1,000s to have good legal advice, to not do that is almost penny wise and pound foolish. So we would encourage that for anyone. But one of the reasons we encourage it is because we know that our properties will always stand up to any kind of scrutiny, because we've done that scrutiny ourselves.
Yeah.
In addition to working with Mike at the development company, I'm also I'm the chairman of a small bank in Belize. And, every month we're dealing with these similar issues. We're not going to provide mortgage money on a property if we're not absolutely certain about the title. So it's really that combination from the development side, from the acquisition side, from the banking side, coming at it from all those perspectives. When we acquire something, we are absolutely sure, that it's whiter than white, squeaky clean, because I don't want to start talking to our shareholders and our family and our friends and other people about any project if I can't sleep well at night knowing we have good title and we're going to give you, the buyer, good title.
And I know, for instance, I know you're recently procured the land and are starting to build in Honduras, outside of La Ceiba. I think it's going to be called the Reef, right? It's a eco home community. And look, I can tell folks from experience that you go to a country like Honduras and they have one thing, they have the squatters rule, I think, where if people have lived there a long time, it's theirs. And another is, you think you bought from, and I know you must have run into this, you think you're buying from Juan, and people like me who aren't the astute lawyer like you, we say, great, Juan, let's sign this deal. And then we find out Juanita and Carlos and Raul and 13 cousins also own the property. So how do you?
We've seen all of that. I mean, in Nicaragua, the fellow who we bought the property from was an old gentleman, and he had received the property from his father and his father from his father. So it was several generations in the family. But he had already gifted it to his children. He had 6 children. They were adults and they were all married. And under Nicaraguan law, the spouses also had, they had legal say. So for us to acquire that property, we had to have the legal sign off from 13 people. And, that was no small feat. And because they didn't even agree amongst themselves half the time. in Ecuador, we were buying a property, and it turned out exactly like you said, where, the person represented, he owned all the property, but there were multiple parcels. He actually only had one small parcel, and then there were a number of people around him, and they didn't even know what he was doing. And, we got to the bottom of that, and one was interested in selling and two others weren't. And, the whole deal blew up. But, that's the kind of due diligence that we do. And it doesn't always work. Some projects work, some projects don't work. Costa Rica was a great example of the squatter issue. We bought a very large piece of property from a wealthy American. He had not been on the property in 20 years. And we went there. We saw that there were squatters. We knew it was going to be a problem. We negotiated in the sales price. We said, look, we're going to pay you this price. It was like over $3 million. But, as part of that price, we have to clear out all of the squatters. And under Costa Rican law, they all had rights. Some of them were pretty darn close to like actual property rights, where we had to literally buy them out. But when it was all said and done, 2/3 of the sale price was gone. And then he was upset, like it was somehow our fault. I'm like, look, if you just paid a guard $500 a month for the last, X number of years, you would not have this problem. But you can't take a big piece of property in a lot of countries, but Costa Rica specifically, and just walk away from it, because if other people come, literally within 2 months, they start acquiring certain rights. And after, I think in Costa Rica, it's like 5 years, it really becomes like a quasi property right. So we had to pay them to leave the property. And like one of the people we let stay is like the caretaker, but they now have signed an agreement that they're leasing the property that they're staying on from us. We lease it to them for a nominal amount. We pay them a salary to do their job. They pay us a nominal amount for the lease, and we make sure it's collected every month. We're not going to, get pulled back into that scenario where, that's really my property. So, Latin America has a lot of that. Belize, not so much. It's English common law. It's not nearly as easy. You have to have more like the States. You have to have what's called adverse possession, where you say, this is my property, and then you live there for a long period of time, and then you can acquire rights. But, in like we just said in Costa Rica, no, nobody said it was their property. They just moved in and lived there, and nobody kicked them out. And, pretty soon they're like the owners. So,
I have to laugh because just parenthetically, I own a home on a peninsula. It goes out into the Potomac River up in West Virginia, right? And there are 1,500 homes. It's a residential resort community, but not anything like Grand Pacific, these gorgeous places you have. Sooner or later, some wealthy billionaire is going to come in and want to buy the peninsula and build, $5-10 million homes. There's just no doubt. They're building all around it. And I've said to my wife, when they come in, they're going to have to go to everyone who owns a little bungalow, which is all we have, and buy our property. And I said, Princess, what I want you to do is, we want to say to them, be the last one to sell, and say, and play country music as loud as we can all the time, and prop a pickup truck on cinder blocks out in the front yard, right? So,
exactly.
You got to get rid of those people.
maybe like set up a chicken coop or something,
Set up a chicken coop. And a friend of mine said, and Rachel's from Honduras, Latina, and she can invite any of her relatives with tattoos to come and visit. And I say, for God's sake, buy that place. But it's in a way, and we don't want to scare people off from buying properties down there on their own. But I'm just going to say this. The fact that you, with your legal expertise, go in and scope everything out beforehand for folks, go to ecidevelopment.com, ecidevelopment.com, because there you go. Every one of the, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Joel, every one of the like 5 or 6 developments that you own, gorgeous developments throughout Latin America and now spreading out, you have done this kind of work on to make sure there are no slip ups, right?
Absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, we have a fiduciary responsibility to our own shareholders. And, I can't go out and waste company resources, thinking I'm buying something and then finding out later that, I just wasted the money because I gave it to somebody who didn't really own the property. So, we have a very strict protocol that we go through. I'm not saying that other developers don't. I think that, most developers are reputable, and it'd be difficult for them to set up shop and, build multiple houses on the same property if they didn't own it. But, in Latin America, anything is possible. And if you're not buying in a development like that, then I think you even more so, you need to engage a local lawyer. You need to, look at about getting title insurance on your property. The joke in title insurance is if you can get it, you don't need it. And if you can't get it, you need it. So, I've had people go through the process of trying to get title insurance, and when they find out they don't buy it. And there's a certain truth to that, because the insurance company is not going to underwrite a title and give a title opinion if they can't get title. So you see a lot of places in Central America. Panama, for example, the Caribbean coast of Panama is some of the areas of the Costa Rican Caribbean coast. They're filled with these areas that are called rights of possession, which is kind of a quasi right to be there, but it's not truly title. And, you could almost think about it as kind of a glorified lease. And if that's okay for you, that's fine. Usually right of possession property is much cheaper. But you have to understand that, would you want to go build a $250,000 house on a piece of property, and then 10 years later you come back and someone says, well, that's not really your property anymore. So we do jump through the hoops. I think it's something that every responsible developer does. But if you're not buying from, a reputable developer, you're just buying from somebody you met on vacation. You're buying from the cab driver who says, hey, I've got this great piece of property I want you to buy, and it's a steal. It very well may be a steal because he doesn't own it. So
because he stole it. He knows it's a steal.
And you see that. The other problem you do see is because in some countries the issuance of title takes so long that people will, sort of nefarious actors will have the title and they'll sell it multiple times, the same property, right? They have the documents, everything looks good. And, you think you're buying it. Somebody else thinks they're buying it. Someone else thinks they're buying it. 3 months later, you show up to build and somebody else is there. And what are you doing on my property? Oh, well, I just bought the property. What do you mean you bought it? Now you're going to court to figure it out. And, somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. So that's very problematic. So again, my advice over and over and over is, make sure you hire a local professional to help you with that process.
Yeah. And I want to say about, definitely we're not casting any, any doubt upon other developers, except for this. I want to say this because I think it's important. Yeah, the other developers may be very good, but quite frankly, they don't have Joel Nagel. Okay. And you are, we know this. The reason you're the America's #1 asset protection attorney is you are meticulous. I mean, incredibly meticulous. And that's vital. And another thing I think people need to remember, Joel, is folks, when you buy a property south of the border, all that legal documents and all are in Spanish.
Exactly. I mean, with the exception of Belize, all of Latin America is Spanish. You have a couple of French-speaking countries as well. But, again, I know a lot. I've been in this space for 33 years, but I would never, ever rely on myself. I'm going to use local talent. I'm going to make sure that I have all the documents legally translated, before I can make a decision involving, potentially millions of dollars. Not to mention, involving lots of people like some of your viewers who are going to end up being buyers, right? I don't ever want to have to face those people and say, oh, sorry, we messed up, right? I mean, that would be terrible for everyone. So, yeah, I mean, it's in Latin America that they use the old saying frequently, measure twice, cut once. And that's what we do. We make sure that, to the best we can, nobody can say with all certainty But we've always discovered the problem when we're buying. And by us discovering the problem when we're buying, we have several options. We can fix the problem. We can walk away from the property. Those are really the two options. We're not going to ever buy something with a problem and not fix it. So, the end consumer is it's pretty clear to them that, we have clear title and we're giving them clear title to whatever it is they're buying.
That's fantastic. Again, folks, check out ecidevelopment.com. It has all the developments, the residential resort communities Joel's talking about here. And if you're, I want to say we have some people I know who can make major property investments down in Central or South America. Folks, check that out right there. I'm just suggesting this. Check it out right there, because
you see, you don't have anything in London. I like that picture though, because that's my website. You got to get Mike tomorrow to talk about asset protection, since you have me talking about real estate.
That's a great picture. But before we go, one of the things that now here's a twist that maybe I want to suggest this, and had to come out of left field. When we talked to Mike about your new place in the Azores that you're building, you all laid out gorgeous designs that fit in perfectly with the manse building that had been built in the 1700s, and it was actually rejected by the Portuguese authorities, right? How'd you deal with that?
Well, that happens frequently. They have an idea about how they want development to occur, and we try to sit down early on and share and going back and forth. Remember, as I said earlier, in Portugal, the concept was to integrate new construction with the existing old, beautiful villa that was there. It's over 300 years old. Right. And we also wanted to take advantage of the Golden Visa program, which requires a property purchase of 350,000 euros. So we were really designing condos and townhomes that fit that definition. And they have on the town board, they have their own architects, they have their own ideas. And it's really just sitting down and sharing, going back and forth what they feel is okay. And, when you're dealing with folks like that, it's not like a math equation, 2 + 2 = 4. This is massaging and cajoling. And, in this particular town, there's not really a lot of tourist development. And the mayor has made it very clear he wants ECI's project there. He invited Mike and I to ride at the front of the horse parade on July 1st, which is their nationality day. You can talk more about that with Mike tomorrow. I'm not sure I'm quite up for it, because I thought it was 20-minute stroll down Main Street, but it's 4.5 hours on a horse. So including
horseback in costume, right?
Yeah, including a Catholic mass in Spanish on the horseback. So I may sit that one out, but look, we understand that in all the countries where we work, we are a guest. We're a corporate guest, and we act that way. We are appreciative to our host. We are a good corporate citizen. We pay our taxes. We hire workers, and I think that reputation goes around a lot of times when we're looking at new projects like the one in the Azores. And, they're going to look at your website. They're going to look at your body of work. Our body of work now is 26 years old, which, it's kind of like, the other day, one of my son's friends who's 25 called me up and said, Mr. Nagel, I'd really like to have you open an account with me, because I just got a job at Merrill Lynch and he wants to manage my money. And I said, but have you ever even experienced a market correction? And I'm not even sure he knew what that word was. So, I'm not gonna entrust, my wealth to somebody who's never seen a downturn in the stock market. And I feel the same is kind of true with real estate. We go to a lot of shows and conferences, and you'll see somebody, here's a new developer. Maybe they're around for 3 months or 6 months or a year or 2 years, and then poof, they're gone. And particularly when we have these bubbles, 2008, 2009 was the last really big one. A lot of people are worried about that now again. And when you buy into a project, you get title to your unit, but in a sense, it's kind of a marriage because you're also buying into an overall development project.
Yes.
And, I'm very proud that in every project that we started, we finished, we've delivered title, we've delivered all the amenities, whatever we promised, whether it was a golf course, tennis courts, swimming pools, whatever it is, and I think that's where a lot of developers in Central and South America fall short. They, they sell you your plot of land, but whatever else was supposed to materialize, doesn't really materialize. But, we try to be good corporate citizens. We're involved in corporate social responsibility, and then when we go into new places like the Azores, they can see that, and they want us to come and do the same thing in their marketplace. So it actually, over the long run, it really helps us by doing it that way. We're not cutting corners. We're not trying to, cheat local municipalities out of their tax dollars, whatever. In Nicaragua, for example, we collect on our property, which is almost 4 miles of oceanfront. We collect all the property taxes of all the property owners, the exact amount that's due. We collect it and we write one big check to the municipality. And, it's by far the largest check that they get. And, they don't have to run around chasing down hundreds of people. We give them a list of all the properties, what the properties, sold for, the home sites. If the property is sold for $150,000 and the tax is 1%, we collect that $1,500 and we give it to the municipality. No admin fee, no nothing. So we kind of function as a quasi, utility, a quasi government arm in some of those places because the local government doesn't really have the resources to do it. Now, conversely, our property was 12 miles off the main road. And because we're a good corporate citizen and because we paid our taxes, the municipality made it a priority to pave the road for us. Now we have a, paved road right to our front door. And again, there was nothing around us when we bought the property. We had to run 3-phase power, 22 kilometers. The road was a complete mud, clay swamp in the rainy season and brutal to drive on in the dry season. We fixed that. We did a lot of it, but eventually the municipality came in because of the partnership. They did it. And so we really try to create win-win, but like you say, it all starts with the title, because if you don't have a good title, honestly, nothing else matters.
Nothing else matters. And we appreciate the diligence you do. And we appreciate you sharing this with us, Joel, because I think, it really does, for everyone out there watching, it raises their comfort level. It gives them a sense of security to know nothing is going to go wrong on the legal end. So thank you very much, folks.
We're going to have an event the end of June, beginning of July, together with Jack Wheeler Expeditions. He's doing a tour of the Azores, and they're going to spend 2 days with us in San Miguel, which is the main island. Has about 100,000 people on that island at our project, and that's going to be kind of the kickoff launch of it. So maybe we can twist your arm to come over. I'll finish by saying one of the reasons that we really were excited about the Azores, you showed the map. It's very, very easy to get to. There's direct flight from both Boston and Newark. And, a couple summers ago, I was with my daughter in Boston, and we went a long weekend up to the Cape in New England, right outside of Boston. I mean, I sat in traffic for 3+ hours just to get to, a small inn that was way overpriced. We couldn't get into, simple restaurants. And, for about the same amount of time, I could have got on an Azore airplane and literally under 4 hours could have been in the Azores. It's the population density is very low. You have great food, great weather.
Right there where my finger is where you land, and that's where the development is.
Yeah, and it's about 20 minutes drive north to south and a little over an hour east to west to drive from one end of the island to the other. You won't meet nicer people, better food, better weather. It's very temperate all year round. It doesn't get cold in the winter, and it doesn't really get overly hot in the summer. It stays 60s, 70s, pretty much year round. It's really a very pleasant place to be. So I hope you'll join us. Maybe you can have my seat on the horse if you want.
That will never happen. Horses are very high up. I tried one time the horse and I realized this is very high up. No, it's not going to happen. But this has been terrific, Joel. Thank you very, very much. And I think it's a little departure from what we usually talk about, but it was fascinating.
Well, it does fit right in with asset protection. We talk about the things to put money in, and real estate is a core pillar. I think this issue of the Escape Artist Insider magazine is called The Big Idea. And my article's entitled The Big B, because I'm talking about Plan B, but the big Plan B. And real estate is prominently featured. So I hope you invite all your folks to get a copy of the magazine and read all about it.
Yeah, go to escapeartist.com, folks, and there's a subscribe button right on the homepage. And it's I have an article in there too on my big idea. I'm not going to say what it is. It's not horseback riding, but it's a great edition coming.
Are you teasing me now? I'm going to have to look it up and read the article. So,
Joel, thank you very much. Terrific.
Thank you, Carter. It was good to be with you. Have a great week. And talk to you next week.
Yep. Thank you. There you go, folks. That is, that is whether you buy your own one-off property in Central or South America or the Azores, or whether you buy into one of ECI Development's great communities, Grand Pacifica, Grand Bayman, right across the board. Now you know how to have the security you need to enjoy the property without worrying about it. So, as always, at the end of every program, let's do this thing.